Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into document management. Specifically, we're looking at Notch and Roombricks. If you're feeling a little lost trying to figure out which one is right for you, well, you're not alone.
It's a jungle out there. Both platforms promise to be your one-stop shop for all things documents, but they each have their own distinct flavor.
Exactly. So, let's break it down, shall we? Starting with Notch. Now, I gotta say, I'm a sucker for a good origin story, and Notch's is pretty relatable. They started because, get this, the founders were fed up with how clunky it was to sign contracts.
Tell me about it. Chasing signatures is the worst.
Right. And the funny thing is that user-focused frustration kind of shines through in their whole platform. It's all about making contract management as painless as possible.
Which makes a lot of sense. In a world where software is becoming more and more intuitive, Notch is really tapping into that need for simplicity, especially when it comes to something as important as contracts.
They actually compare themselves to Notion on their website, saying it's just as easy to use. But Notch takes it a step further. They've packed in some pretty powerful contract management features. Think like embedding a Loom video to walk a client through a proposal or using a type form right in the document for feedback.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty slick, not gonna lie.
Right. Plus, you get real-time Slack notifications, so you're always in the loop. And you can collect legally binding signatures without anyone ever leaving the platform. It's pretty impressive.
What I find fascinating is that Notch is really zeroing in on a specific niche contracts and e-signatures. It's a smart move considering that market is absolutely exploding right now. And the fact that they've got backing from some big-name venture capital firms, that says something.
Yeah, those guys don't just throw money at anything. They clearly see something special in Notch.
Absolutely. So we've got a user-friendly platform, laser focus on a hot market, and serious financial backing. Notch is definitely checking a lot of the right boxes. But now let's flip the script and talk about Roombricks.
Okay, so Roombricks. This is where things get really interesting. They're all about what they call AI-driven engagement.
Right, with their Hive AI, it's like having a super smart assistant who's always one step ahead.
Okay, I gotta ask, how does that actually work in practice?
Imagine this. You're onboarding a new client. Instead of spending hours crafting the perfect welcome email, Hive AI swoops in. It analyzes their past interactions, their communication style, maybe even sneaks a peek at their social media, and then drafts a personalized message that's tailored just for them.
Wow, okay, so they're not messing around with the whole AI thing.
Nope. They're taking it seriously, and the applications go beyond just emails. And if you're someone who lives in their tech stack, get this. Roombricks boasts integrations with over 1,900 tools.
1,900, seriously?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. We're talking project management giants like Asana, design tools like Figma, and everything in between. They're all about breaking down those silos and creating a hyper-connected workspace.
It's like they're trying to be the glue that holds everything together. While Notch is simplifying contracts, Roombricks wants to streamline your entire workflow. And speaking of streamlining, another thing that caught my eye is their focus on client onboarding.
Oh yeah, they go all out on that. Customizable checklists, mutual action plans, you name it. They're basically trying to eliminate any friction from those crucial first interactions with a new client.
Which is huge. Onboarding can make or break the client relationship, so anything that makes that process smoother is a win in my book. But it does make me wonder, are they spreading themselves a little thin compared to Notch's laser focus?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like comparing a Swiss Army knife to a high-tech scalpel. Both are incredibly useful, but which one's better depends entirely on what you need it for.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right tool for the job.
It makes you think, though, that difference in those heavy heart scores we talked about. That's got to make you stop and think, right?
Yeah, no doubt. While we always say it's not an exact science, seeing Notch with a 3 out of 10 for risk of closure versus Roombricks 6, that does make you wonder. It's like, are they playing it a bit safer?
Right. Especially if you're a business owner looking for a platform you can really rely on long term, that kind of difference can really sway your decision. It's like choosing between, I don't know, a solid, reliable sedan and a super flashy sports car.
Ooh, I like that analogy. Both will get you where you need to go, but the experience is going to be totally different.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, the best platform isn't the one with the most bells and whistles or the coolest name. It's the one that actually solves your unique problems. It's about what keeps you up at night.
Right. So if you're someone who's drowning in contracts, constantly chasing those signatures, and you just crave simplicity, Notch really feels like the way to go.
But if you're all about connecting the dots between your existing tools, automating those tedious tasks and creating that super smooth client experience, well, Roombricks might just be your new best friend.
This comparison even digs into the teams behind the platforms, which I've got to say I always find fascinating. It's like getting a glimpse behind the curtain.
Right. It definitely gives you a feel for the company culture and values, and that can absolutely influence the software they create.
Totally. And from what I'm seeing, Notch has a really experienced team with a ton of knowledge about the SaaS world. They're super transparent about their background, their investors, even their company culture. It feels very open and honest, which is honestly really refreshing.
Absolutely. That transparency goes a long way in building trust, especially when you're dealing with sensitive business data.
Exactly. And that's where things get a bit more, shall we say, mysterious with Roombricks. There's just not as much information out there about their team or their experience.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind. I mean, it's not necessarily a make or break situation, but it does make you realize how important it is to do your homework.
It's like the difference between a restaurant with an open kitchen versus one where you can't see past the swinging doors.
Hmm.
Some people love the mystery, but others, well, they like to see how the sausage is made.
100%. At the end of the day, it all comes down to your personal comfort level. But it's definitely a factor to consider when you're making a decision this big.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about where these platforms came from, their best features, their strengths and weaknesses, even the teams behind them. But now, let's bring it all back to you, the listener.
Because when it comes down to it, your experience is what matters most.
Okay, so we've thrown a lot your way today. But if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, remember this. There's no magic answer when it comes to Notch versus Roombricks. The best platform is whichever one checks the most boxes for you.
It really is. It's kind of like, when you're tackling a DIY project around the house, you wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail.
Definitely not. So to help you figure this out, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine you're talking to a friend, they're starting their own business.
Always exciting.
Right. But they're feeling that classic overwhelm of too many choices. They come to you knowing you've done your research, and they're like, help, what do I do about document management?
And after this deep dive, you're ready with an answer.
Exactly. So knowing everything we've discussed, would you point them towards Notch? With its simple interface, the great support, that focus on contract security.
Or would you be steering them towards Roombricks, telling them about the AI insights, the way it connects all your other tools, that slick onboarding process?
What would be the deciding factors for you in that moment? What would you prioritize for your friend? Ease of use, the features, or maybe just knowing that the company's going to be around for a while.
Those are the key questions to ask yourself as you're making this decision. There's no right or wrong answer. It all boils down to what works for your business, your budget, your vision.
And to help with that, don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got links to both Notch and Roombricks, so you can dig a little deeper, see their pricing, read what other users are saying.
Exactly. Do your research, and you'll find the perfect fit in no time.
And on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time.
See you then.